Hey sixth graders, if you missed the matter mini lesson, here is a brief recording of what we went over in class. So what is matter? Matter is the stuff that all objects and substances in the universe are made of. So it's just everything that stuff is made out of. Okay, because all matter takes up space, or it has volume, and it contains a certain amount of material or has mass, all matter can be detected and measured. So what that means is that we can measure matter because all matter has space, so it has volume and mass, material. All right, so what are volume and mass again? Volume is the amount of space that something occupies, right? So when we talked about volume, we talked about how we could put liquid in cylinders and we could figure out what the volume of that liquid is because it's the amount of space that that liquid occupied. Mass is the amount of matter in a liquid, solid, or gas. So it's how much matter is in a liquid, solid, or gas. So we measured mass by using the digital scale. Remember, we put different objects on there to measure the mass of them. Today we're going to start talking about density before we get too far into our unit on matter. So what is density? Density is the measure of the amount of mass in any given volume. So density gives us the density of a given substance, or density of a substance, remains the same no matter how much of the substance you have. So the density of my coffee stays the same no matter how much coffee I have in my cup. If I have a full cup of coffee or just a little bit of coffee, my coffee still has the same density. The equation that we use to measure density is mass divided by volumes, and you'll see that as D equals M divided by V. The density of water is 1 gram per milliliter. So if an object is less dense than water, so if it has a density of less than 1, it will float or rise in water. If an object is more dense than water, it will sink in water. So if the density is larger than 1 gram per milliliter, then it will sink in water. And that goes for objects or liquids that are more or less dense than water. So if you think of a time if you've ever put anything in your water, if you've put ice in your water, if you've put oil in your water, if you've tried to do some experiments that way, then you will see that there was some things that happened. Did the oil sink, or did it go above the water on top of it, or did it go under the water? Was it more or less dense? What about your ice cubes? When you put ice in water, is it more or less dense than water? Did it sink in the water, or did it float? Those are times when we thought about density. When we calculate density, we're going to use this formula. Density equals mass divided by volume, which also means that mass equals density times volume, and volume equals mass divided by density. We can use this little triangle over here to help us remember our equations, or to help us figure out which equation we need to use when we are working. So when we are working on problems, if we want to find density, we have D down here, and we're trying to find density, so we have mass divided by volume. If I know the mass, if I know the mass and the volume, then I can find density. If I don't know the mass or the volume, then I have to figure them out. If I know the density and the volume, then I can figure out the mass. I can take my density and multiply it by my volume. If I know my mass and my density and I'm trying to find volume, then I have mass divided by density. So one way you could do that, I like to look at this triangle, is if I'm trying to find a certain, if I know, when I like to cover up what I'm trying to find. So if I'm trying to find density, that means I have my mass and my volume, and I'm going to divide it. If I'm trying to find my volume, I can cover up the volume and look and see mass divided by density. See, mass is on top of density, mass is on top. If I'm trying to find my mass, I have my density next to my volume, so I'm going to multiply them. Density times volume. So that's just another trick that you can use if you're trying to use this triangle to remember the equations. We're going to do some practice now. So we're going to practice finding the density of objects. So we have a volcanic rock that was formed by rapid cooling of lava. We want to know what the density of the 49.8 gram piece of rock is that has a volume of 83 centimeters cubed. So I'm going to highlight the information that I know. I know that the rock has a mass of 49.8 grams. Okay, it says right here it has a mass of 49.8 grams. And I also know that it has a volume of 83 centimeters cubed. So I'm trying to figure out what is my density. What is the density of this rock? Right here it says what is the density. So I have the information highlighted that I know. And then I'm going to write down the equation that I'm going to use. To find the density of a rock, I do density equals mass divided by volume. So I'm going to fill in the information that I know. The density is 49.8 grams and the volume is 83 centimeters cubed. So density equals 49.8 grams divided by 83 centimeters cubed. Once I do that practice, once I divide those two numbers, I get 0.6 grams per centimeters cubed for my density, and I know that this is my unit for density, so I have found the correct solution. All right, we're going to practice another problem. I have another kind of rock, and I want to know what the density of it is if I have a mass of 239 and 2/10 grams and a volume of 92 centimeters cubed. So I have my density triangle here. I can use that to help me remember which formula I need to use. The first thing I did is highlighted the information that I knew. It says the mass 239.2 grams and volume 92 centimeters cubed. Those are the two numbers that I have and that I need to find. I also could highlight the word density to show that that is what I'm trying to find. Then I am going to write those numbers out, and I'm going to have you do that as a little practice on your own, and we will come back together and look at them. If you have any questions, feel free to come back to the Google meeting or send a message on Schoology, and I would be happy to answer them or help you out. All right, happy learning. Bye.